Hi, I'm Bruce from Druids. I want to show you how you can use Sage to take control of any part of Unreal Engine, plugins, and your own blueprints. We do that with what we call Sage extensions. I'm going to show you how to make extensions by creating one for the post-process volume. To begin with, you're going to want to right-click and you're going to want to create a new editor utility blueprint. Search for Sage extension, only spell it right. There we go. And we're going to name this post processing. Extensions come in two types. There are queries and there are actions. Queries are functions that allow Sage to get information about other systems in Unreal Engine, and then it can make decisions based on what information it got back, including running actions. Actions are functions that you allow Sage to actually execute on your behalf that will actually change these systems in Unreal Engine. So to begin, we're going to create a new function here, and we're going to call this getTemperature. There we go. We're going to drag off this. We're going to get all actors of class, and we are going to get the post-processing volume. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and compile. I'm going to get an error here because we need to provide this extension with the world context because it doesn't have it by default. We've created a little helper that makes this easy to do. So we're going to get world context and we get a world editor world context. Let's go ahead and save there. From here, we're going to pull out and get a copy. Post-process volumes, you could have multiple in your level. We're just going to deal with the first one here just for the sake of brevity for this. And from here, we're going to get settings. There we go. And from the settings, we are going to pull out here and we are going to break this open. And now we need to find the settings that we want to expose. In this case, we're just going to work with these first three here, the color grading temperature. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and that's going to create these data here. We're going to drag out from this pin and we're going to get a return node. And then before we return this here, instead of a numerator, we're going to make this a string because Sage wants to know what actual setting is set here, not like the byte value of what's set here. So we're going to go to string. There we go. And we're going to drag that in here. We're also going to drag this temp and this tint. And then we're going to rename this from return value to temperature type. There we go. So we are almost finished with this query here. We just need to let Sage know to actually be able to use this. So if we click on this function here, we can give it a description and we give it a category. The description is going to be text. It's just going to be a little more information that's going to help Sage know when to use this function. Because this is pretty self-evident, we're just going to call this, we're just going to say this gets the temperature settings of PPV. And then for the category, we're going to create a new category called Druid Sage Queries. And that is very important. And the spelling and the capitalization matters. That category is what lets Sage know it can use this function here to get data. And the last piece we need to configure are going to be the class defaults. Because we derived from a Sage extension, most of this information is automatically configured for you. Oh, and I have misspelled queries. It is very important to get this right. Queries. There we go. I'm going to compile, go back to my class defaults. And like I said, Sage is going to auto-figure this information out. But it has a couple places we can provide more context. So we can give this entire extension a name. I'm going to just simply call this post-process volume settings. And then I'm going to give this a description. Gets and sets the post-process volume setting. So obviously we are going to extend this to actually set these different settings here for the post-process volume in just a moment here. The context type is how you tell Sage what part of Unreal Engine it belongs to. Any is what you're going to want to use if you want to work in the 3D world, in any other part of Unreal Engine. But say you have an extension you only wanted to work in a Niagara editor, or you only wanted to work in a material, you would specify asset editor, and then you would pick the specific type of asset editor from this list here. We're just going to go right back to any. I'm going to go hit compile and save, and then I'm going to open up this queries array. You can see it already found the function get temperature. It now found the description. It found some results, definitions, and we're just going to open these up, and they should look familiar. We've got our temperature type. It's a string. We've got our temp. It's a float. And we've got our tint. It's a float. But we've got this description here. And this is where we can tell Sage more about how to use this and what this data means. I've gone ahead and copied the definitions of what these different pieces are, and I'm just going to paste them in here. So this explains how to use the temperature type. This explains how to use the temperature, that it comes from Kelvin. And this explains how to use the tint and what it means. And I just got these definitions from, I think, the Unreal documentation itself. And so with that, I can go ahead and save, and that is everything that Sage is going to need to be able to get this information. So I'm going to go back over to my scene. I'm going to open up Sage. I'm going to make sure that use extensions is checked. And then I'm going to ask Sage just a very specific question that's going to allow us to figure out if Sage is giving us the right answer. What is the current temperature type, temperature, and tint of my scene? While I wait for this to happen, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to open this up. This is the data it's going to be reading here. And so what's happening at this moment is Sage is registering the extension, and then it's using my prompt to determine what am I asking, and then it's finding what it has suitable to get this information. So Sage has found the post-process volume, it's read the data on it, and it's returning me what the answers are. And so I can spot check really quick, that's the right data. I'm going to go ahead and clear this, because now it's time to create an action. So just like before, we're going to create a new function. We're going to call this one set temperature. We're going to compile it. And a lot of the code for set temperature is going to match the get temperature. So I'm just going to copy it over here. I am going to copy all of this, in fact. I'm going to go back over to set temperature. I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to hook this node up. And this time, instead of breaking this, I'm going to set members. Open this up. I'm going to connect that. And I am going to again find my temperature settings. There they are. I'm going to type, temp, and tint. And so the type is an enumerator. And I don't really want to deal with that right now for the sake of this video. So I'm just going to skip past it and go to temp and tint. But you're going to handle it the same way that I'm handling temp and tint. It just hit a little different because it is an enum. So I'm going to take this temp here. I'm going to drag this into my set. And I'm going to drag the tint over here into my set. I'm going to compile. And just like Sage queries, I need to tell Sage how to use this function. So I'm going to give it a name. In this case, a description, I mean. This sets the temperature of a PPV. I'm going to give it a category, in this case, Druid Sage Actions. I'm going to compile. I'm going to go back to my class defaults. I'm going to close my queries. I'm going to open my actions because I've got two in here, and just like before, I can set this text description of how they work. If you think about it, the query text description and the action text descriptions are almost the exact same. So I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to copy my Kelvin, or my temperature, about Kelvin. I'm going to place it in there. Sage already knows how to deal with Kelvin. And I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to also add how to deal with the tint. Now I'm going to add a little more information because tint has a range from -1 to 1. And I need Sage to understand that that's how that value works. It easily could have been gone from 0 to 1, 0 to 10, 0 to 100. So I'm just going to say ranges from -1.0 to 1.0. And now I'm going to compile and save. And now that's everything Sage needs to control my post-process volume here. So I'm going to open up Sage. I'm going to copy a prompt here. And this prompt here has a little more interpretation than last time. I'm going to say, give me a scene with a cool temperature like a spy thriller. So now Sage has to do a little more work. It's got to figure out what would allow it to set a cool temperature. It's going to figure out it has an extension to do that that controls the post-process volume. But it also needs to understand what is a spy thriller and what values on a spy thriller would correspond to a cool look in a post-process volume. So Sage has come back that it wants to give me a temperature of 6,500. I think that's standard daylight cool, and a tint of 0.5. So let's give that a shot. I'm going to hit action, and it has made those changes. And you can see it started to bring in that cooler temperature. We're bringing in those greens and those blues now, and I really like what that looks like. But I can have Sage push this to its extreme. Set this to a wild, extremely cool look. There we go. And so, typos and all, Sage is going to, again, try to interpret what I mean by this. What is extreme? What is extreme cool? It's going to want to push these values. Maybe it's going to pick some cool values. Maybe it's going to pick some bad values. I don't know yet, but I want to see what happens. There we go. Hit OK. And now we get this really greenish tint, which that's what it told me it was going to do. So that is extensions. That's how they work. You would continue to extend this extension out with the other sections in here. If you're continuing with temperature, there are color, global grading. For color grading, there's shadows, midtones, highlights. All of these have different data types that Sage can interact with, and it can read, and it can set. And it's going to allow you to take quick control of your extensions and do some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to post this extension on our Discord, and you can download it and take a look at it and extend it in any way you want. Thank you for your time, and have a good day.